That's what we've been waiting on. He said you was coming. You stopped by earlier. He said you was gonna be here. All right, everybody ready? You rolling? All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order and welcome everybody. Mr. Norris, Mr. Norris's daughter. We'll do a roll call for a quorum. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Huffines?
Here.
Mr. Panesh?
Here.
And Dean Ward Chair here, Mr. Christmas
Here.
and Mr. Wooten.
Here.
Okay. Would everybody stand and pledge allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here is just me.
It's hot. I've been trying to strangle Miss Jolly to get the air on and she finally got it running. Okay, folks, we are the Graham Planning Board and we're here to conduct the city's business tonight. And if you're here to speak, you will have opportunity to speak before us. If you have questions, feel free to ask during the time when it's your time. The agenda's not too heavy tonight, so we should move along pretty quick. And I'll make a motion and ask, did everyone have a chance to review the minutes?
Yeah.
And was there any problems with the minutes?
I would like to make a comment.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't here naturally to hear the minutes, but I did read them and it shows where I was absent. I wasn't part of the planning board at that particular time because the county had not approved me until September 6th. So therefore I couldn't have been absent. I wasn't a member.
So I just don't want it to show as a unexcused absence
Yes,
or
sir,
anything. If y'all would note that, please.
for sure.
Thank you.
It's just a point of clarification. I mean, I've served here almost 11 years and it took a few months to get things kind of cleared up. So anyway, thank you for understanding.
Yes, sir.
Anything other than I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes as presented with the exception of Mr. Manish's comment about not being absent because he wasn't a member of the board.
I'll second it. All in favor? Any opposed?
I have one question, not about the minutes, but
Yes, sir.
Mr. West or Ms. Jolly, approximately how many people watch online? Do you know how many?
I can tell you right now, let's see. I got the YouTube live stream. Well, it says it can't be minimized whenever I got it going on. Let me pull. So the YouTube live stream's up right now. It looks like there's 2 people watching currently. One is probably including me since I got it up. I couldn't give you a fair estimate. What I'll have to look at,
I just out of curiosity, if
yeah, I'd have to
Just make
pull it up
folks know.
and might be able to look and see how many people, like how many views it had, and that may be able to
okay,
entertain that. If you'll give me 1 second, I'll try and.
well, that's okay. I just want
Acknowledge them.
to
Yes, sir.
acknowledge the folks that are watching online.
And for the folks that are watching online, we welcome you to continue watching. Thank you for watching.
Perfect.
All right. Kevin, when you get a chance, we'll talk about the new business.
Yep.
And let's start with item number A. Mr. Norris was here last time, so let's make sure he's first.
Yes, sir. Well, he is definitely first this time. So as you all know, this is a summary that's come back after the previous proposal was withdrawn. So this is a request to rezone 0.25 acres of property from R7 high density residential to CB conditional business for the purpose of utilizing the existing home structure as previously mentioned as a hair salon. The entirety of the block is zoned R7, and this request would allow all B3 permitted uses to utilize on this property minus the ones omitted in the proposed conditions on the lot. I know that there has been, Mr. Huffine has a list that shows these are the B3 uses that we're going to use. I know it's a long list of omitting the ones they're not going to use and more or less making it easier to say these are the ones we're going to use. So he may bring that up and show it to y'all, but that's what I had at the time. And so going back to the future land use aspect of it, the future land use plan notes that the supporting uses in the downtown residential zone supports that uses of neighborhood oriented commercial facilities. So the request as they're presenting coincides with both the future land use plan and our development ordinance. And that's all I have on that aspect.
Chairman Ward, if I may interrupt.
Yes, Mr. Lopez.
Chairman, as a result of last month's meeting, Mr. Norris and Brooke Norris and I got together after the meeting. Subsequently, the Norrises have hired our firm to help represent them in this case and hopefully present it to you all and to the city council. So this time I'd like to express my need to be recused and as the fact that I'm representing them as their consultant in this matter.
And does anybody have any questions for Mr. Huffines before we take a vote? I'll entertain a motion to,
I make a motion that Mr. Huffine be excused.
and I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Huffines.
Thank you.
Would step down.
One other note of, you said everything else in the block was R7 except that other B3 business on the block already.
Yes, sir. So I guess that'd be the one exception is
Okay.
that small. That B3 portion is a part of a lot as a whole. That majority, like it's not its own section per se. It's all a part of one lot on that area. So yes, you are correct
Okay.
that it is majority, I guess is the
Yeah.
better term.
So there is B3 on the block already.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Huffines, Mr. Norris, y'all can come on up.
Chairman Ward, planning board members, thank you. It's good to see you on this side of the microphone. If I may approach, I'd like to bring you a list for some clarification we'll need later on in the presentation.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll take one. I have it on email, but I'll hold on to it. Thank you.
The rest there.
Okay, so members of the board, this you saw last month. The property's currently a house that's undergoing some renovations. It's on a 1/4 acre lot at the corner of Elm Street. We discussed at length the difficulties in a conditional zoning and a straight zoning and the differences between the two with the Norrises. And in the process, worked together with them to determine what type of plan was needed to meet staff requirements, to formulate a list of items that would be prohibited. Should we seek a conditional zoning? We scoured the B1, the B2, the B3 zoning districts for table of permitted use items. We interviewed Ms. Norris and Mr. Norris at length just to get an idea of what the day-to-day program would be, to offer them some suggestions on types of uses, to discuss some of the construction that was going on and that would need to take place in order to bring the site and facilities into compliance with the city ordinances. So as a result, we have completed a plan for the rezoning, conditional rezoning as required by the town ordinances. We've also summarized in a list that I've just handed up to you a complete list of items taken from the B3 district, as those items would be the items requested for permitted uses and those items only. So in an effort to simplify and narrow down the large number of items to be omitted, we simply this time chose to present you with items that would be permitted, so that as you speak amongst yourselves and deliberate, You may want to consider those items in the wording of your motions, should you choose to make one. So I can briefly go through those items and give you the basis for each one, or I can stop and pause and take questions if you'd like to ask those at this time.
Any questions at this
No
time?
questions at this point. Parking lots or access driveways serving uses not permitted in district where lot is located.
Yes, sir. So in an attempt to address the town's desire for cross-access and interconnectivity out of right-of-way, we included that provision just based on past experience with requirements that are necessary of site plans as they go through and as the business areas increase. The need to connect one parking lot to the next off the right-of-way always seems to be a desire at the staff level.
Okay.
So we included that since we are surrounded by residential uses and we would be a conditional business. The dissimilar uses would still need cross access if that ever came up.
Okay.
Just trying to make a provision for that.
Okay.
I will say that this plan and would like to hear from Cameron, this plan and several revisions subsequent to this plan have been provided to the staff for their review up until yesterday. So the plan you're seeing on the screen is updated. Should this plan move forward after city council, it would then be subjected to the technical review committee and their comments again,
Okay.
so that any technical items would be addressed.
And arts and crafts studios, see note 25.
Yes, sir. So there is an item that we have recently worked on since the July or June publication date of the town's current land development ordinance. I believe, and this is my recollection, you'll need to help me. I believe note 25 was added after the Miracle Metals case went through planning and city council, but has yet to be codified in the Unified Development Ordinance. So I wanted to make you aware that there is an idea inside of this facility. A craftsman may make a bracelet or earrings of fire or amethyst or rocks or things that would be sold as a boutique item. We don't necessarily know how to classify that, but it seems artsy, so I put it in there. Just to be completely transparent in an effort to
Okay.
tell you what could happen.
And I'm also pulling up from the changes that were made. I just had the definition of it up there. But
There's
a
note
little bit,
25.
yes, sir. So it's got a little, a couple excess aspects of
Okay.
it. Just basically stating, the performance standards of what all should go in there, the dust, dirt, fly, ash, interference, basically all what it's alluding to in the definition that I was showing above of the industrial manufacturing aspect of it. I think it just goes into some more solid detail, like it says frequency banding, odor, smoke, radioactivity,
Yeah.
vibration,
I
things along
remember
those lines. Basically
Okay.
just taking out the industrial aspect of it that was shown above.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to point that out for clarification because Mr. Huffine brought it up to me, in which I did not even know that it wasn't a part of it. I didn't make any of the revisions to this one. So
And for the record, none of those items are remotely possible at this location, but it is a piece of the ordinance that is not apparent to us, but is in some way.
Any other questions at this time?
No.
No questions. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Huffine.
Yes, sir.
So one thing that I may note, and Chad, I may bring you back up here to ask this, but in the original conditions sheet that was sent over in regards to the uses that were going to be omitted, the parking lots or access drive serving uses not permitted in the district where located was one of the ones that was set to be excluded. There's a separate one, however, for the parking lots or access driveway serving uses permitted in the district where lot is located. I don't know if that's one that was supposed to be that because it was left out in the original one, but it was kind of transferred over. I don't know if the one on the updated one that you sent over was supposed to be for the uses permitted and not permitted. Does that kind of make sense? You see where I'm coming?
Because it's on both lists.
So my understanding is that the surrounding properties, if you want to put the map back up to the north and to the east,
Yes, sir.
are zoned residential. And they are dissimilar in use and would be dissimilar in zoning were this case to move forward with a favorable vote.
Mhm.
So hopefully the provision as worded would allow a cross access from one property to the next without a reappearance at planning or zoning. If the adjacent properties needed that and these property owners were agreeable. They may be residential for the foreseeable future, but may need an access for some reason. We just simply didn't want to visit again if that question came up. It is not a necessity, but it is merely I think, a gracious offer in light of what staff often requires of us.
But that worded, the verbiage is the same in the uses not allowed and in the uses allowed.
We would like for it to be allowed if the city so
Okay.
desires. It is
Okay.
not by any means a requirement of the success of this business.
Okay,
It's simply a grace or a giving in light of what may happen in the future.
thank you.
I know we've been talking a couple minutes, but I think I created a technical issue. We are in a public hearing, and I didn't announce that we was opening the public hearing, but I would like to open the public hearing and accept what's been presented so far. Is that appropriate?
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Thank you. That by me.
And did you want to close it back? Are we still
Not yet.
open?
Not yet.
Okay.
I haven't closed. I just got it open.
Yes, sir. So we're good still.
I got some questions I want to ask you, Cameron.
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason we didn't pursue conditional residential because of the residential property button up right to this property? That house sitting right there, right behind it. Is there any reason we didn't pursue a conditional residential versus a conditional business?
Well, when the uses that they're looking to do are all going to be business oriented through the home, then it only seems right to go through the conditional business route because I guess it could be classified either way, whichever one they want to do. I mean, in the B3, it's still considered a neighborhood business zoning,
Mhm.
which also allows for the dwelling single family detached homes in the B3. But it seems majority of the uses requested trump over the residential aspect in return would consider it to be that conditional business rather than a conditional residential. Because if we were going to take it conditional residential and try and tie it to a residential use, the residential uses, say for instance, like a R7 or R18 or R12, don't have the permitted uses in that area. So it's only seems logical in the applicant and staff's mind that you go through the CB route.
It's just quite a few businesses still in that conditional business. If you're pulling from the B3, that you wouldn't have had that option on a conditional residential.
They're still all subject to whichever zoning classification, I guess you want to pursue though. Like you said, we're going for a conditional business with B3 zoning aspects, which the B3 zoning aspects allow for also single family home and these other business type use aspects.
Or, excuse me, Chair, are you saying it gives the applicant more leeway?
Not necessarily leeway because they're still requesting, the overall request originally was for, a rezoning to a business zoning originally is what they wanted to rezone it to a B2, which allows for businesses to be operated within this structure. Whether or not it's classified as a single family structure now, if they operate a business inside of it, it's considered to be a business, not necessarily a single family home dwelling. And in that return, it doesn't matter where we're being more lenient or what. I mean, they could have requested it to be a conditional residential and follow all the B3 zonings except for the ones that are proposed. It's kind of whichever way. It only seems a little bit more rational to go through the conditional business route and still ask for the B3 uses when the main principle that they're asking for currently is for business and not for residential. And the conditions that they're seeking aren't anything associated with the residential aspect, where if somebody were to seek a conditional residential, they may be looking to get a reduced amount of setback for the home, or maybe 2 homes on the lot, whereas they're just keeping the single family dwelling, or excuse me, the building on the lot currently, but seeking business uses outside of it.
So are you saying that if we approved a CB, that they couldn't add another structure on the property? Are you saying that?
That's correct, sir, because all the conditional rezonings are site specific. So whatever's approved via the site plan at the city council is what's subject to it and the conditions associated with it. So it could only be included if they were to advocate, for that. But since it's the conditional business, it's kind of sat to that standard of the site specific stuff. So, and the conditions, of course.
So in a regular B3 zoning, what would the setbacks be?
I believe they actually have it listed up here. So for oh no, they don't. I'm sorry. I'll have to pull that up for you. So I can do that and look at them real quick. And if y'all want to keep on discussing about that, I can get them pulled
Okay.
up for you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Huffines a question?
Sure, Mr. Huffines would.
Do you have any particular size of the footprint of the building that you would be proposing to put on that particular property at this time?
The building is going to
Mhm.
remain exactly as it is,
Same size footprint?
same size footprint. It's about 1,200 square feet. Outside finished area, and the building.
Only
is-
one story?
Yes, sir. Only one story.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, I have a question for Chad.
Yes, sir.
The list of desired permitted uses, these were chosen in light of possible future uses? I
Correct.
remember at the previous meeting, there was some mention made of a possible future use as a lawyer's office or some such.
That's correct.
That's what we're talking about. These are all related to possible future uses.
That's correct. During our conversation with the Norrises, we discussed what would happen if, for some reason, the health and beauty venture did not pan out. So in a provision to avoid coming back for any future hearings, we included the office space less than 5 employees. And I think there are 2 other office type uses in there, which would be a likely reasonable use in light of the adjoiners or other uses in that area. And then further up, is it Marshall Street? Where there are similar uses in similar situations and architecture is similar. So we spent, 30 minutes to an hour talking about what would happen if we needed to change things without visiting you all again.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Chair Ward, so I have the setbacks up here listed right now. So you got the 20-foot front yard, the 20-foot side yard on lots adjacent to lot zone residential, 20 for lots abutting the side street, and was that 20 feet in the rear as well. So 20s all around.
So we wouldn't meet the front setback to begin with in a B3 zoning.
That's correct, sir.
And we wouldn't meet the rear setback either, would we?
No, sir. But that's another reason why it comes to this
For the
conditional
conditional,
aspect,
right.
yes, sir.
I'm
And
just-
as we could even have discussion. I mean, the R7s are listed up here. You got the 20-foot front, the 5-foot sides, 15 to rear, and the 20-foot setback. They don't have those listed on here. But of course, if we were to look at it a little bit more in depth, we may find that the lot may already be currently non-conforming as is, because it could have been held to different setback standards in the past.
Mhm.
But from what the, proposed is in the future, I guess they have the 40-foot front, 20 side, 20 adjacent, and the 20 rear. So
But they're proposing, so it's already meeting, if they're proposing it, it's, they're already meeting the 20-foot front and 20-foot rear. Is that what you just said?
So that is what's shown on here as I'm just reading off the 40-foot front, and this could be as well as the safeguard for in the future that the conditions for this lot are set to these setback standards. Say if the lot were demoed or the house were demoed and there would be something else put up back up here, that it'd have to adhere to these setback standards and eventually probably have to come back in front of y'all as well to get changes to the site plan as well.
That's all I have this time, Cameron. Any other questions, for Cameron? No. Any other questions for the petitioner before I close the public hearing?
No.
Yes, okay. I'm gonna close the public hearing at this time. And we'll take some discussion. Anybody want to start? Feel free.
I think they've solved the off-road parking.
Basis.
Yeah.
And they have a handicap accessible on the other side as well.
Off Marshall.
Yes, sir,
Off
North
Melville.
Melville
Off of
over
Melville.
here.
Okay.
Can you tell by that scale how far that house is set back?
Unfortunately, probably from the digital aspect, I couldn't. If we had a full set of drawings, I may be able to. And I wouldn't trust trying to read it off the PDF.
Just curious. if
Yes,
you know.
sir.
Mr. Tuffhouse, do you know the distance?
It's greater than 18 feet. Do believe that it's. So Chairman Ward, in an effort to help clarify some of the setback questions, I do believe that it would be a non-conforming case were it not a conditional zoning. So I do know that it's greater than 18 feet from the existing piece, rear porch area to the property line, just based on appearance.
Did you say rear of the porch?
Yes, sir.
So the front of the house?
The front of the house, it is significantly less than 20 or 40 feet.
Okay.
The right-of-way line is what we will call a cyan, and you will call it a light blue aqua color where the hand is that Cameron's using. So you'll notice that regardless of what we do, if we've considered it a straight zoning, this is a non-conforming use, and it is, well, non-conforming dimensionals based on the current unified development ordinance. So this construction obviously predates the development ordinance. Part of the conditional zoning allows us to clarify and site specifically address setbacks. And that's what we've done here by showing you that the existing structure remains in its place. If there were an improvement to the site, if the building were demolished and replaced with a different building, we would be visiting you again for a change in the entire site.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes,
for
sir.
me.
So the list that's been provided, if I understood Mr. Huffines correctly, is this is what they're asking for and everything else is to be excluded.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So it basically includes, I guess, if you take that sheet that Mr. Huffine gave us and then take the sheet that was provided in the packet, those are all the table or the uses permitted in the B3 district, but it's just condensed showing these are what's going to be permitted rather than these are what's going to be admitted.
I don't think I could support a school or music, art, or martial arts or dancing right close to since that property right behind it is directly residential. I don't think I could support that one.
If a music teacher wanted to teach piano in there, or an artist wanted to have an art class with 3 kids or 4 kids or whatever, less than 5, I'd have no problem with music or art, or even dance. But martial arts might be a different story, but
What about somebody teaching percussion?
Drums.
Drums. I mean, music is music and that's the only thing I was
Yeah.
thinking about. I'm not opposed to somebody teaching guitar lessons or piano lessons or something like that, but if you got a bass guitar over there, just boom, 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 and you're, Yeah.
are there noise ordinances that would restrict that?
that's a gray area.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, I think there's a time frame in which the noise ordinance
It's 11.
comes into play.
Like,
That falls into like the code of ordinance aspect of it as well.
That's what it is.
And it goes upon decibels and decibels.
Yeah.
I will note, I mean, there is mention of home occupation on here as well. And some of the same aspects of, art schools, dance classes are somewhat mixed into that home occupation as well. Of course, I believe, and I'll try and pull it up to the definition that's mentions it, because I got it right here. But there's also a lot more associated with it. The home occupation, no more than 25% gross floor of the dwelling unit. But the home occupation is only for instances where the occupation is a secondary use. So the first use would have to, it'd be single family. And then the home occupation would have to tie into the secondary use of the single family dwelling. So that's something to think about as well. But it'd have to be the single family first. But it mentions instruction in music, dancing, art, or similar subjects shall be limited to no more than 5 students at a time. But that does not have the same clause when it comes to the use of school, music, art, martial arts, dancing. Because it's a kind of secondary use to the single family aspect of it. Just wanted to clear that up.
As far as I think I heard on the first time that Mr. Norris's daughter wanted to be able to potentially run an esthetician shop out of there.
Correct.
Will this fit in with the beauty shop? Will that fit in with that? Or is that gonna need a signal?
Yes, sir. So that barber shop, beauty shop, nail salon is all one line in the table of permitted uses. So it would fall under that currently in the interpretation of staff here. So barber shop, beauty salon, kind of hand in hand. I guess you can consider a male haircutting and a female haircutting to be the same as a barber shop.
And as far as the parking lot or access driveway serving use not permitted in the district. Let's talk about that.
Yes, sir.
Explain to me or to this board what they're interpreting and parking lot or access driveway serving use not permitted in the district.
So I'll start from the parking lots or access driveways serving uses permitted in the area. So it's almost as if it's an accessory to a lot itself. So say you have a used car dealership and it's on one lot and you got a piece of land back behind that lot that you want to utilize to put more cars to park on there. If the lot is also zoned, say for instance, for example, B2 used car dealers are acceptable in there. If that car lot in the back behind the actual building one is zone B2, then that would be considered the parking lots or driveway accesses serving uses permitted. So it's serving that permitted use of the used car dealership and having that extra parking or access in there. And the same could be mentioned for the parking lots serving uses not permitted. If say somehow one or another, I guess this could be an example, but a grandfathered in location in a residential district that has a used car lot on it and the lot behind it is also zoned residential, then you'd have that use is permitted not in the zoning district utilizing that in the back. So does that kind of help out a little bit?
So we couldn't, if this is approved, the parking there couldn't be used as a overflow for any other business downtown where they could charge a parking permit fee or something to park in there or what?
Well, see, I think it would be, see how it's spoken as here is the serving use is not permitted. So that would mean that in the conditional business aspect, I guess if we're going off the B3 permitted uses, it would have to take a zoning lot or commercial development or residential thing that's not permitted in the B3 for them to be able to utilize it here. So that parking lot is serving a use that's not permitted in this B3 district. So that's why I brought up the point of including or how I thought, and I tend to not think too much. But it should have been worded, the use is permitted in this area, because if we're going to be utilizing overflow from maybe a commercial district downtown, that's permitted in the B3 district, can utilize this area. But I guess the same could be said if, a convenience store overflow parking isn't permitted in the B3 and they wanted to utilize this parking lot, that would be subject to the uses not permitted in the district.
But that's that in there is, if I remember, if I understood Mr. Huffine correctly, that's for sometime in the future, just in case. If the lot to the east of there
Yeah.
became some commercial property, then they'd have access through that parking lot.
I can see it. I guess it also comes into the discussion of interpretation. If we're going to consider, the uses not permitted in the district, are we going to consider the district itself to be the conditional business where these that are listed are the only permitted uses that are allowed to park in there? And I guess that's to your and Mr. Huffine's point, and that's me wrapping my head around it now, finally.
That's
So,
what I was assuming that was, but I wanted to hear that come out.
yes, sir. So it took me a little bit of a second to track with it. So maybe like I said, from the length of discussion, trying to figure out difference between what we thought, you all would like to see in the permitted uses and not, that, okay, we're kind of going back to square one. So
Mr. Bailey, you got any questions?
I have no question.
Support all the uses here? You got any discussion on the uses?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Benesh?
Now, I have a somewhat of a problem with home occupation. If that were not to be a business, and you're gonna turn around and put back as a home,
That's by right.
that's by right.
That's by right anyway.
Okay.
and there's, as I, pulled it up earlier, Mr. Benesh, and I'll bring it right back up because it does help to kind of look at the home occupation aspect of, okay, it has to meet these standards, these 7 standards right here, the 25% of gross floor area, no outdoor storage or visible evidence of equipment used in the home occupation, unless it could be reasonably associated with the principal use. No more than 1 road vehicle, maybe a single trailer used for cargo, but no construction industrial equipment. Must be conducted entirely within the dwelling unit, so it wouldn't be able to span outside of the home in that 25 square foot or 25% of the gross floor area. Only 1 person who is not a resident may be employed. And this is the big one that always kind of kicks the home occupation when people ask me, is the activities shall not generate traffic, parking, noise, odors, or electrical interference beyond that normally occurring in the zoning district.
That cleared it up right there.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was a little concerned with.
No worries.
Then I have no problems.
Again, the only thing that I have a problem with is the school, music, art, martial arts. I don't have so much problem with the dancing. I don't think that would potentially be an issue, but with the house being so close right behind it, and it being an all residential district to begin with, except for that one partial down a little bit, this B3 that I don't even think is open.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all one single lot right now. And it's just that B3 is that small little area that's a part of the lot as a whole. I don't even think that there's anything going on in there. I also don't know because I haven't rode by there, but
I'm fine with the office space with 5 employees or less. I'm fine with the arts and crafts studio with 5 employees or less. Boutique shop, I don't have a problem with that. Barber shop, beauty shop, that's cool. The contractor's office is good. The dwelling is used by right anyway, single family detached. Home occupation, I'm okay with that if it meets
yes, sir.
our zoning, but photography, I'm okay with photography, but the medical, dental related office, I'm 50-50 on that. And the only reason I say that is, if it's a dentist office, it's going to generate a lot of traffic.
Mhm.
If it's some other type of medical field, it may not generate as much traffic and button up to that residential, it just bothers me. And the photography studio, I'm okay with that with 5 or less. It's just those retail sales. It's going to generate a lot of traffic. I have concern about and the music. Mr. Christmas?
I have no problem. The music, I see a piano teacher in there, or you talk about drums or a bass guitar. You don't have to turn the amplifier on, and you don't have to have a trap set, beat on a countertop, because all the drums now are yay thick and
You know, we create the issue by allowing it. If it's not allowed, then you don't create the issue. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about. And, you know, Graham does have a somewhat of a noise ordinance, but I think they've been told, based on the last situations around Court Square, that it wasn't too solid. And they've been rewriting it for 2 years.
I'm gonna try and pull it up as well while y'all are sitting there talking too.
yeah, I have no problem with the use.
One thing, Mr. Chairman, with the, I'll give a little levity to it, if you will. Bass guitar is probably just as loud as the moaning coming from a dental office when a tooth is being pulled or extracted. So there's a lot of noise there sometimes, but,
And I told you I was concerned about the dentist office.
Well,
but,
yeah,
yeah, what I was going to say though is, these loud stereos, they're just as loud as or louder than a music studio would be. So.
Yes, sir.
you have to
You
stop
know,
driving down the street then.
And I respect in
Yeah.
what you're saying there, but we're allowing something that's not allowed there
Oh,
now.
I
and there's a
totally,
house
I
within
totally
20 feet
understand.
of it.
I
That's the
totally
only-
understand that,
The
sir.
reservation is the house is 20 feet from this house right here. Mr. Wooten?
Couple of questions, comments. I'm good with most of the permitted uses. I do have a question about the contractor's office. When it says no outdoor storage, I want to just make sure that means you can't store a backhoe, front loader,
Correct. Yes,
no
sir.
additional storage buildings, nothing like that on the lot.
And I may allude that I think when it mentions the no outdoor storage is what you were speaking on the first time is, you know, the actual storage of materials that are associated with contracting, whether it be, like you said, backhoe, but accessory uses are, you know, pretty much common. And if they have a storage building back there and it looks like a normal residential storage building and they have, I mean, anybody could say they put a lawnmower in their storage building. It could be a part of the contractor's office as well, that they have to keep it back there to mow their lawn. So in my interpretation, I believe that the no outdoor storage is more what you were alluding to the first time.
Want to clarify on that.
Yes, sir.
The what you were mentioning about the medical, dental or related office, I could see that a little ways down the road in probably a new building. I'm not sure that a dentist nowadays would want to be putting an office into a
Right.
older home, so. But I think that would need to come back. Probably, you know, for setbacks and such. The school music art, I noted that. And we got the packet, didn't get it in time to do a little bit of research on that, but we do have, I think, one dance studio just over here. Think of the name of the street over here, Maple or whatever.
Auto Park Drive.
No, just right around the corner, literally. Just
I know
down
which
the
one you're
street.
referring to. I don't,
What's the side street right over?
Maple.
may,
Yeah, it's just down
Um,
the street a little ways on the left. It's a dance studio.
And my wife frequents that place quite often.
I will,
And there's another music studio down on Main Street, down toward the food line down that way.
Yeah, that Dewey Brown's.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to check and see what those zonings were. But you know, we already have some of those types of things in houses in pretty much residential areas. But I don't think quite as close as this. I'm not sure what they mean by school. Are we talking about an elementary school, junior high school, something like that? Or like Mr. Christmas said, just a piano studio or an art studio.
And
I would look for a clarification on that.
yes, sir. And I can give you my interpretation on it if somewhere were to come to me, is the school is, the main subject of it's either a music school, art school, martial arts school, dancing school, and that like, not necessarily, we have other uses listed out as, we have like secondary schools and other things listed out for the other types of schools that you may be referring to in the table of permitted uses. But this one, in my interpretation, is subject to the music, arts, martial arts, or dancing.
So what
Kinda
you're saying
academies.
is that these music, art, martial arts, dancing, they are descriptors of a type of school
Correct. Yes, sir.
in this interpretation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that, if that interpretation is legitimate, I could go with that. And guys, being a longtime bass player, probably 50 years worth or 60 years worth, yeah, they make a lot of noise. But most of that's fairly well contained unless you stick it outside and have a dance party or something out on the patio.
They would probably
Which
just go
the-
to 5 o'clock when they
No,
wrapped up
no,
about 5 p.m.
No, you can't go on problems. It's a business, so they go to 9, 10, 11 o'clock they want to.
Yeah, that, I would say that's, people's schedules. You
After
could
they get
have
off work, right.
activity, right up until 10 o'clock.
That's the only one thing that bothers me the most is the music, and I guess we could put to eliminate certain.
Yeah, and the hard part is, as I was mentioning with, the barber, beauty shop, nail salon, that's all one single line of the permitted use. It's not necessarily that a music school's one use and an art school's one use and a martial arts school's one use and dancing school's one use. They're all tied into one specific use. So I don't know how that would look if you had to try and separate and exclude one and permit the others.
Well, the only other comment that I would have about that, I'm not aware of any complaints that we've had about the dance studio or the music studio down on South Main or any other,
They're zoned appropriate, B2 and O and I.
Okay.
They are zoned appropriate. I
They're
just
zoned-
looked them up.
Yeah.
That's the only difference there. Mr. Brown's house there at Rogers Road and by the gas house, across from the gas house.
It's actually, that one is vacant now.
Right.
It's up the street just a little ways from there now.
Any further discussion?
Other than that, I'm good.
I'll entertain a motion. And if there is a motion made, like it clarified on what is included that's approved, instead of having to put this big long list in of what's not approved.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal as presented by Mr. Huffine with the table of desired permitted uses included in accordance with the Graham Comprehensive 2035 plan. I'll get proper notations here in just a second.
Got them for you.
2.2.1 focus development and 2.3.2 innovative spaces of innovation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's it, Mr. Huffines. You can join us back up here.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of our firm and the Norrises. We appreciate your comments and we look forward to seeing what the council says.
Best of luck to you.
Sure.
Guys.
Oh, yeah.
On the property. Is that something that the city y'all will allow anybody to park in that parking lot, or is that our property?
No,
Park
sir.
our
So
businesses
as Mr. Huffine alluded to, it's, if you were to utilize where you would allow somebody to go out there, it's not public parking by any means, no, sir. So it's if you were allowing overflow parking to be utilized on that spot for a day or any time during the day, then that's more or less what I was alluding to, not necessarily those public parking.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up, that it wasn't, a place for, if we have an event downtown here that they're able to use that parking lot.
Not unless you allow.
Unless you allow. it.
Unless you, yeah, okay, all right, thanks, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, Mr. Norris.
Cameron,
Yes, sir.
let's move right along.
So this is a request from staff for a previous CB that was approved back in 2012. It's over on 0 East Hardin Street listed on the map, but parcel number 146,819 and 146,790. So it's a request from staff to reclassify these portions to an applicable zoning classification. I know it mentions on the packet back to B3 previous zoning, but more or less applicable to what you all consider. The current landowner is seeking to build homes on the back portion of the lots shown below. With the conditional business zoning classification on the front of the lot, the owner is unable to run a driveway into the proposed housing development, the single family house development due to the site specific plan that runs with the land. The original purpose was specific to build a center for Mount Zion Church, who were the previous owners. But after its approval in 2012, nothing has come to fruition. According to section 10.45F of our development ordinance, no sooner than 3 years after the date of approval of the position, the planning board may examine the progress made towards developing the property in accordance with the approved petition and any conditions attached to the approval. If the planning board determines that progress has not been made in accordance with the approved petition and conditions, you shall forward to the city council report, which may recommend that the property may recommend that the property be classified to another district. With no development occurring in this time frame, staff is asking that you recommend the property be reclassified to another district to allow the owner to utilize the full extent of their lot.
Bring this up on the map. I couldn't find this parcel.
So
You didn't show me enough with a 0 address. I couldn't find the 0.
I apologize. So originally, and this lot, I will say, it used to just, and the GIS is really interesting in regards to its layers. So it used to run right here along the front lines and connect over to this property, but it has since been recombined to form into 3 different lots, with this lot right here, this one right here, and he also owns this parcel on the town branch side. Yes, sir. So he wants to build a house for himself here, his son right here, and his daughter over here, but he's currently unable to utilize this space right here because the site or piece of land right here is conditioned that a church-esque type building is supposed to be laid there,
There was a church there.
and it got demoed.
It burned, it got demoed,
Yeah.
yeah.
The lot's been cleared. It's right beside the convenience store, which is the old 7-Eleven.
Yes, sir.
Sam's.
And I guess that's alluding to my unprior knowledge of what happened over here, but it has changed hands. I don't know what the standards are for if they were looking to demo it, if they should have came back up here and gotten any sort of approval, but this is kind of one of the things that we're working through right now, because he's looking to get the house built, but he's running into this kind of stone wall.
If my memory serves me correctly, there was something that happened to that church. I don't know, it was a fire.
I think it
fire.
burned, yeah.
The back portion burned.
The fire, yeah, and they were gonna rebuild, and they came before us, and we approved them to do that.
Yes, sir.
And then they cleared the lot, but they haven't done anything since.
And I guess that principle still comes into play is, it was approved. They haven't made the stretches towards deriving out to the conditions you approved. They changed hands of ownership. So now here we are. And I think this is something we may try and look to continue doing, because there's a lot of vacant conditional business and residential properties here in the city that haven't necessarily been utilized to the full extent or even developed out. So
Well, if he wants to build houses back there, why not just, those are R7 lots back there?
yes, sir.
3 houses total.
Yeah, then why not just make it
Oh, what?
up and all the way to the road?
So here, he's looking to build like right in here in this area. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we're having a private discussion.
Oh,
here.
We
Sorry.
was talking about, with his access from Town Branch Road, he still can't build 3 different houses there without getting his CB changed back to residential. Is that correct?
Well, he has access on Town Branch over here, so he could put in, or I think there may be a curb cut over here for this lot, and it may be tough to see. I probably should have did a little bit better job, but there's 3 separate lots. And it's this one over here, and there's a lot line drawn where I'm drawing right here. And this large piece of tract of land is all its own, and it separates by this lot line and then this area right here. So he's only looking for, he is unable to build on these 2 because of the CB zoning district, but the one on Town Branch, he is able to develop.
How many acres of land are we talking about?
From my,
9.
yeah, one
Very
point,
big.
There's 1.9, I thought.
Is
one
that,
point 6.7.
is the 1.67 just strictly the CB part? Or
No,
is that-
sir. So the
Looks like more
CB,
than 1 acre of land there.
so the full proximity of the 2 parcels, so this parcel and this parcel is 1.67 acres. For the CB, I'm not entirely too sure. I can probably figure it out by pulling up the old plans up
Not
there.
very big.
Yes, sir. And that's the thing, is that small strip of land may hinder him from putting that driveway to connect back to his home back there. And that's what we're kind of trying to clear up.
So many parcels right there.
There's
Trying to figure.
oddball lots and it's landlocked.
Mm-hmm. Cause you can't get to that parcel if that's one of them.
Well, the thing is the CB
not
just runs across it. The CB doesn't,
There's
it's not
the
a lot
CB.
line.
That little triangular lot. That's all one big lot. $3. Well, there would be no issue, just make it all R7 and let her rip.
That's what you'd basically take that small chunk of CB and change it to whatever you all would be a fair enough to, change it to. I know I put B3 on there and that was a mistake by me, but I think in my opinion, the staff's opinion, the R7 would be consistent with what they're building back there right now as well.
So do we do this in the form of a motion and a vote, or do we do this in the form of recommending to council as a consensus that they take it back?
Yes, sir. So how it mentions
Yes, sir.
here, it may
Oh.
recommend that, so we're forwarding a report. So it basically be you recommending that
Yeah.
they change that CB zoning to R7 by y'all's recommendation. So yes, sir, not necessarily a vote.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions from anyone over to my right? Mr. Huffines? Said Huffine.
You didn't say how fine.
Chairman Ward, just a question, I think for Cameron.
Yes,
This-
sir.
This was initiated by the landowner or by the city because of the expiration of the conditional zoning?
So a little bit of both. So it was holding him back in that aspect. And, it mentions in the ordinance that the planning board may examine progress. And as a liaison to the planning board, I took it upon myself to bring this up to you, as I've had further discussions with admin folks that this may be something that I put some effort into as well. I apologize for bringing this up. I'll just turn it back on. But put some time into, because there are multiple lots here that have never came to fruition, and, old site plans that probably don't conform too much to what our a lot of the conditionals changed as well. So it was brought upon my staff per request of the property owner.
Okay, so I think for clarification, we have an existing time frame where a conditional zoning, if substantial or significant progress towards the effort of developing in accordance with that
Mhm.
conditional zoning is not exercised in a certain amount of time,
3 years, yes, sir.
3 years, then even if the property owner had no interest in doing this, the city could, if it so desired, revert back to the underlying zoning.
Correct.
So regardless of who the petitioner is, this could be a staff initiated request. And we would simply be looking at reverting back to the underlying zoning since no major progress has been moved on the conditional zoning.
Correct. Yes, sir.
It's very simple.
Indeed.
Okay, there are several landlocked lots back there.
Yeah, and the landlocked lots that are back there, if I'm gonna try and pull it back up, he only owns these two pieces of property. I believe the one that you're referring to right here that looks like it's landlocked, does it go all the way over to Town Branch Road? I may have to
No.
pull the
No.
GIS up.
I can give you the GPN 146, 7, well,
797.
797.
I will note, I mean, I don't know how to put this politely, but I guess it really doesn't have any effect on the request because it's not necessarily involved in that parcel's like area.
But with no access, then that land becomes worthless. And then if the landowner wanted to do anything with it, he'd have to fight for an easement.
But that's private property stuff. That's really not something the city necessarily gets involved in. If they create landlocked lots back in however long ago it was, what was the G pin again?
146, 797.
I probably could have just looked at the other one. I don't know why I didn't do
I
that.
think it's listed to a Carrier Richmond.
So he owns that one as well.
Well, that
Okay.
is him. Okay, that's when we thought it might be landlocked. Okay.
Well, I have no problem with going back to R7, recommending city council do that.
Any further
I'm good.
questions or discussion?
No problem.
I think, Cameron, it's a consensus of this board, if you would send a report to the council recommending review and taking this back to R7 zoning.
Yes, sir. I'd be more than
And
happy to.
if we need to put that in a vote, we'll entertain that. If we don't, if this is sufficient, let's move forward.
If y'all want to, just in case, we can definitely do that. Just motion that you task me to make that board or
I'll make a motion. We had instructed the planner to say by consensus of the board, we recommend this revert back to its previous zoning of R7.
Yeah, second, yeah. All in favor? Any opposed? Well, I'm gonna give it to Mr. Benesh.
Make you feel good.
All right, Cameron,
I believe that leads us to any public comment on non-agenda items.
I got one.
What's that?
I want to get these agenda packages a week in advance.
Yes, sir.
I don't want no more of these 1 and 2 days or 3 days before it comes out on Friday and we're
Mhm.
having a meeting. I want these things, if the meeting's gonna be on Tuesday, I want to get the package on Tuesday.
I could have swore I sent it out on Tuesday.
Check my email because
If it was either Tuesday or it was Wednesday morning, but for sure, I'll make sure that they're on Tuesday.
it don't,
I
get-
need to make sure I have your email correct because the ones that I've sent you keep on bouncing back to me. I don't know if you've gotten any emails from me at all, but one that you gave me is still not getting delivered.
Cameron, you did send it on Tuesday. I got it this morning.
I appreciate, well, that was the updated one as well.
you said it Wednesday.
Okay, so I sent the updated one and that was including the R7 stuff.
Yeah, you know, everybody's not retired up here, only just a couple are.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to call anybody's names.
I know.
I just need a little time sometimes to ride by and I tried to find this 0 on Hardin Street. I couldn't find that 0 address.
Mhm.
I couldn't even find it looking it up in GIS and I didn't call you.
Well,
I
I
should've-
attached the G pin to it as well, the tax account to it, and you
Yeah, I
just read it off to me and I pulled it up on the
Yeah,
GIS
I
just like
didn't-
that.
I didn't even look at that.
I understand. Well, listen, my office door is also open anytime. So is my phone, as you know all too well. So anytime y'all got any questions, and that goes for all of you, I'm your liaison for that reason. So please, if any calls, stop by unannounced. I do not care. So my door is always open to you gentlemen.
Any further,
One thing
questions
you
or?
mentioned about Mr. Benesh not being here last week. Mr. Bice is not here tonight, but would he be listed as absent or is excused?
He called and told me several weeks in advance, he had something conflict and it was scheduled already and he couldn't change it. And I would say that that's an excuse. He didn't wait to the last minute to ask.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
And his, I don't
Okay.
want it to be used against him for any type of removal or anything like that because someone.
I'm not gonna hold it against him. He's doing good work over there. So
If you would take it upon yourself to look back at maybe the meeting prior or the one prior to that, there may have been
it'd have
2
been,
other meetings I did not attend, and
Yes,
that was
sir.
because of,
For sure. We'll look into it. I feel like before our last meeting, the last one was in, we skipped 2 months now
yeah,
before August.
that's
So
what I was aware. I've just checked to see. The only reason being is, I was in limbo, so I didn't know what to do.
Yes,
And I
sir.
told Chairman Ward, I can't come over and sit in your meeting and vote and be a non-member, so it'd
Yes,
be
sir.
a backlash on you guys. So,
Cameron, what is the timeline on the new, I understand that the comprehensive plan is, got approved, the money got approved. to
Yes,
start
sir.
that Work, what's your timeline on? that?
So we're working with the COG.
Yeah, for the UDO, whatever.
We're working with the COG in drafting. They're gonna be the ones developing the new comprehensive plan. We're still in the very preliminary stages. We still need to meet with them and discuss the timeline out. So I can't even necessarily give you one out because we've only had the discussion as we're gonna do it, it's for this amount. And we took that amount to city council and they approved the funding for it. So we haven't even had a base like startup meeting just yet.
Okay, and the second thing is, back before you took your new role as planner, we discussed about doing a unified business district out on, Cherry Lane. What's the process and when we're getting moving and what have you done with it?
So you mentioned a business district. Are you talking about more or less the overlay?
This the overlay district right there, just on Cherry Lane.
Yes, sir. So I haven't had my hand in that all too much. Aaron has been the one dealing with that. He has took it to city council. And I believe council's interpretation was to deal with it when we do the update to the comprehensive plan. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it's been handled. It has been presented, I believe, once or twice now, and it's kind of in the hands of the city council. I wish I could give you a better.
Wouldn't that have to come before the planning board to go to the council for approval?
Well,
Are we
not
doing this a little backwards?
necessarily. I think it was more or less, I don't know how it's explained, but to give the green light to bring it in front of you all and then bring it in front of them. Like I said, I haven't had my hands in it because, like you said, whenever all that came about, I was shifting over into this more advanced role. And I think Aaron kind of took it upon himself to relay that up the chart. So, and did y'all not see it one time before? I can't
No.
remember.
So as the chairman of the planning board, I would like to start a discussion in the next meeting
Yes, sir.
about this unified district, overlay district. And if council don't like what we present over there, sometimes things in government move very slowly.
I can understand that.
And let's get past the slowness and let's get something working on it where we can work on it anyway. And get something to council. And if council wants to approve it, they will. If they don't, then they don't. But I want to move forward with something on that, just on the Cherry Lane aspect of to protect those houses in the old fields and the other houses there that are not in the industrial park.
Yes, sir.
We need to kind of be a good neighbor. I don't want it to include the whole industrial park, just Cherry Lane.
Yeah.
what we want to do is be proactive instead of reactive.
If Mr.
Try to
Holland
get ahead of the
is,
curve.
Mr. Holland is in charge of that, then he should be here to make that presentation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, would
And-
that be none?
And if he don't, if they don't want to proceed that way, we'd like to start our own. So be thinking and get creative and let's get moving.
You'd like to start your own and you want me to draft it up? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. So do a lot of studying. I'm gonna give you a lot of homework.
We'll see.
With all that free time that you have.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
We got a lot of big
All that
pot, and a lot of
copious free
firewood.
time.
We-
We're gonna get,
I'll utilize my comp time after the fact. and take
we're
it.
gonna get you on salary so you don't get comp time.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But anyway, if you would help us with that, that's something that is dear to Mr. Huffines and
Yes, sir.
Mr. Benesh out that way and being the ETJ guys.
Mhm.
And I do think it's something that needs to be addressed. and
Yes, sir.
Sooner than later. And I know it's already been 3 months or 4 months since
Mhm.
we first talked about it. And, sometimes you have to grease that squeaky wheel to get something done.
I completely understand that. Would you like me to look into it and give you a call tomorrow and kind of talk to the folks and
Yes.
get up with you tomorrow?
Tomorrow or, sometime by the end of the week, that gives you plenty of time. If not,
Well, I'll try and grease that squeaky wheel and be on top of it as much as I can. All right.
all right.
By
Anything?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I got you.
Anything further? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.